Hello, friends. I wanted to talk about the real reason why your business or your finances are not taking off. And I wish I had known this years ago. I would have saved a lot of energy, a lot of time, and a lot of money on coaches, books, seminars, and the works. What nobody talks about is the connection between health, wealth, and relationship. And I'm going to share a story with you, and it's my story. Several years ago, I was a brand new coach. And what I had learned through my upbringing, through society, through everything was that you work really hard and you get the results. And when I became a coach, I joined a $1,000 mastermind of other coaches. And one of the first things that I heard about were these rock star coaches that were in the program that were crushing it with sales. And I had this notion of, I'm going to beat them. I'm going to beat them and I'm going to walk so far ahead of them that they will like eat my dust. Like I had this deep desire to really prove myself and this deep desire to outcompete and outwin everybody. And I would do whatever it took to make that happen. Well, lo and behold, I worked really hard. I learned a lot. I went just pursuing all the sales calls and all the things. My calendar got booked. And within a few short months of being a salesperson, of selling a high ticket, 5-figure coaching program, I reached my first 100K sales month, projected sales to be 100K. Like literally, I sold 10 coaching packages that month. And I remember sending a message to my coach that was supporting me going, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And it was this incredible goal, this incredible accomplishment that somehow I had attained, even though I'd never sold Girl Scout cookies in my entire life. And it's just bewildering how that experience even transpired. And, within, I would say the first day, there was like this tremendous high, this tremendous rush, this tremendous feeling of like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. And those of you that have ever gotten like a promotion or even bought a new car or bought a new house, you know what I'm talking about. That first blissful feeling of like, oh my God, is this really real? Can you pinch me? Because I can't imagine how real this is. So I had that blissful moment, that moment of ecstasy, the first 2 days, 3 days or so. And then within, I would say around 72 hours, it wasn't very long, maybe a couple of days, this deep heaviness came into my heart. And I couldn't shake it. I couldn't tell you what was wrong. I just knew I felt so heavy. And I had this feeling of like, is this really true? And some of you may relate to this. It felt too good to be true. And within a few short weeks, it actually was. And what happened for me is within, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. And the problem is that sometimes when we attain these crazy goals and we get what we want, and it's almost like it's too good to be true, that inner imposter sets in and you start going, well, is this true? Is this really too good to be true? And am I really deserving of that? Am I really worthy of that? And these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions started to come through me. And within the next month and change, I would say there are 4 to 6 weeks, for someone who just crossed 6 figures in sales, now within a month and change, I was struggling to barely cross 4. And I did exactly what I was taught to do, which was when there's any challenge and any turbulence, you push harder, you grind it out, you put your foot on the accelerator and you just go harder. And I did exactly that. And lo and behold, around that 4 to 6 week mark after that crazy high, I found myself in my bedroom one morning and I couldn't even get out of bed. And this feeling of exhaustion had taken over me. This feeling of I can't push anymore came through me. And I was scratching my head because the truth is, the reason that I had left my corporate job the year before that was because of corporate burnout for something that I wasn't really excited about. And now I'd stepped into my path. I'd stepped into my purpose. I'd stepped into my business. I stepped into what I thought was my calling. And now for some reason, I was finding myself unable to get out of bed. And I was just going, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And I couldn't shake that feeling, that thought out of my head as I'm barely struggling to get out of bed and fulfill the commitments that I've made to the clients that I had at the time. And it was crazy because I met this person who became my mentor. And I tell them about my sales. I tell them about the 6-figure sales month that I'm barely struggling to make 4. And I tell him, I just want to make the dollars in my business and I don't know what to do. To which he asks me the question, well, what's wrong with your marriage? And that question really caught me by surprise. And I was like, maybe there's something wrong with his hearing. Maybe there's something going on I don't know about. And I asked the question again, to which he asks again, Karishma, what's going on with your marriage? And sometimes you're so good at hiding the pain. You're so good at hiding what is. You can't believe that somebody would actually find out. In that moment, I felt like someone just pulled like the covers back and seen my life for what it was, maybe the lies that were. And all of a sudden, this perfect thread of lies that was my marriage just being barely bound together. All of it just was open, was out there in front of this complete stranger. And I just started to cry. And I felt the tears well up. I felt all of the emotions well up that I'd never allowed myself to fully feel, going, I don't know. I'm just in such a state of pain and I feel so disconnected. And the reason that I'm sharing this story is because having gone through over 500 sales calls now, having supported over 150 plus entrepreneurs, corporate executives, high achievers, leaders, all of these folks that really want to excel and thrive in their business and really become CEOs of their lives, what people don't realize is this connection between health, wealth, and relationships. And I'm going to go deeper into this. And I hope you are just coming into this conversation heart wide open, just curious. So where I'm going with this is how you show up in one area of life is how you show up everywhere. And what nobody talks about is how health, wealth, and relationships are all connected. And everything is energy. Everything is you projecting your relationship with yourself out into the universe. And I've mentioned these little anecdotes here and there in previous podcasts, but I really want to go deeper with this today. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I had one client who came to me and he was like, Karishma, I'm barely struggling to keep up. I'm working 80 hours a week. My business won't surpass a certain number, and I physically cannot put any more time into my business. I don't know what to do. I actually met this other really successful wealth advisor last week on a call, and she was sharing the same thing, that she had hit that glass ceiling of efforting, and her efforting was no longer reflecting the dollars and the revenue that was expected. And her boss had already had a talk with her about the 80-20 rule and what can you be doing differently. And she could not figure out for the life of her why all the efforting isn't producing her the results that she desires. And this other client had the same qualm, the same frustration, because here they both were at the brink of that massive overwhelm and burnout, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. So going back to client 1, and I had the privilege of working with him for over 2 years, what was happening with him was people pleasing, was the inability to say no to everyone else. I've had a lot of people please clients in the past. For me, it was this overbearing sense of responsibility and that I had to prove who I was. And as an Indian woman, as a minority woman, as just a woman, there was this insatiable desire to win. But if you look at like what's driving that behavior, for me, there was a fear. And, for those of you that are listening, ask yourself, what is driving you? Is it like a fear of missing out? Is it a fear of not making it? Is it a fear of failing? Is it a fear of succeeding? Is it a fear of losing your house, losing your financial situation? What is the fear? For me, there was a fear of like, what if I can't prove my worth and value? What if I'm a loser? Right? So if I'm afraid of failing, i.e., I'm afraid of losing, and you see it's all fear-based, I'm going to do more and more and more to push harder and harder to avoid the feelings of failure, to avoid the feeling of powerlessness. And for me, that work became an insatiable drug. Drugs addictions are so interesting because in society, we say no, drugs are bad. Drinking too much is bad. All these addictions are bad. But somehow work has become this addiction that's completely okay and good job. and good job on being helicopter mom, and also having the 6-7 figure job, and good job on having the achievements and promotions. But what most people fail to realize is the emptiness behind that, the disconnection behind that, the years lost with their children behind that, the years lost of not having connection, not having friendship with their partners behind that, the years of health challenges behind that. And I've seen every flavor of all of these things that I've talked about. So for me personally, there was this deep fear of like not being worthy, this deep fear of what if I'm a failure? And that means that there's nothing worthy in me, because all that matters and all that's worthy about me is my accolades, is the sales commission, is what I want you to see, which is this, huge figure of success. And for those of you that can relate to this and just connect with what it looks like or feels like for you, the feeling of failure, feeling of success, fear of missing out, fear of losing your house, fear of losing everything, and just be in touch with all of that. And what I didn't realize is that that pain was driving me. That pain was that drug that was driving me. And what I wasn't willing to see was how I really felt on the inside. And what I really felt on the inside was extremely lonely. What I didn't want you to see on the outside was my loneliness, was my disconnection at home, was my inability to stop working. Because if I stopped working, then you would see how messed up I was. You would see the rage. You would see the powerlessness. You would see the frustration. You would see all of these parts of me that I was so good at hiding on the inside. These clients come to me and they want to scale their business. We have to uncover the root cause of what's keeping them stuck. We got to uncover the root cause of what's creating that glass ceiling. We got to uncover the root cause of what's causing that lack of fulfillment, the lack of clarity, the lack of purpose. And what's incredible is this relationship piece and this connection with relationship piece that nobody talks about. And had I not gone through my experience, I wouldn't be talking about it either. So how we show up in one area of life is how we show up elsewhere. How I was showing up in my relationship was extremely disconnected. How I was showing up in my relationship was very avoidant. And I had these big fat walls. I had a boyfriend in high school that called me Ice Queen. And I was so used to putting up this big fat wall in my relationship. There was nothing my partner, my ex-husband, could do to penetrate that wall, because that wall was so thick. That wall of preventing hurt and preventing pain and preventing true connection. And I can sit there all day and blame him. But the truth is, it was me. In every relationship, there is a them and there is an us. And my job in this podcast, my intention is to turn on that magnifying glass into what is really within ourselves. So what I was afraid of seeing was my true disconnection. What I was afraid of seeing was how empty I felt at home. What I was afraid of was what I was afraid of telling you was that I was afraid of stopping working. Because if I stopped working, then you would see me for who I really was, which was less than perfect, which was less than successful, which was the parts of me that I was so used to hiding, the powerlessness, the frustration, the insecurities, and all of that. And what's beautiful is as we step into the space of empowerment, everything shifts. So when my mentor told me, Karishma, what's really going on? It was the first time someone had asked me that question. And it was the first time, perhaps, that I was actually courageous enough to tell the truth, which was my marriage was failing, which was I no longer felt safe in the relationship. And I'm not talking about safety as in someone's being violent and hurting me. I'm talking about safety in, am I safe to walk through the mucky waters? Am I safe in not walking through eggshells every single day? Am I safe in truly saying what I want to say without being judged? And the truth is, I wasn't safe to do all those things or be all those things. And I'd hidden all of those vulnerable parts of me in this facade and this desire to be extremely successful. And so for me, what it took to really go through this, and again, I'm sharing this to help you in whatever you're going through, is for the first time, I had to be really honest with myself. What is my part? What am I truly feeling? What is really going on inside of me? And for the very first time, and I've had to do this exercise over and over and over again, What am I really afraid of? And what's crazy is in our relationships, we project our unconscious into our partner. Our partners are the poor recipients of our internal unconscious projection. So it's really easy. Those feelings come up, those thoughts come up, those emotions come up, and we go blah right towards our partner. But the truth is, all of that stuff that we're feeling is really our fears, our insecurities, everything we're feeling on the inside about ourselves. So in the moment, in real time, it felt really real of, oh my God, he's disconnected. He's pushing me away. He's blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, I was all of those things. And because there was this deep, deep fear of getting hurt, from the years of feeling hurt, the years of compounding stress, the year of compounding insecurities, those of you that are in long-term relationships, you know what I'm talking about. That stress and those insecurities and those communication blips just stack over time. And if we don't address the real pain underneath it, we're just going to keep stacking that pain and projecting all of our insecurities onto the other until at some point we have no choice but to get divorced, no choice but to finally move on from the relationship. And it's okay to move on, but I'm just owning my part, because the truth is, even after the divorce in my current relationship, those parts of me still come up, and I still have to come back to myself going, Karishma, what's really happening? Karishma, what are you really feeling? Karishma, what are you really afraid of? And really allowing myself to get in touch with those deep, deep insecurities and fear inside of me, and owning my part, and really be like, oh my God, Karishma, it's okay. It's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to say those things. It's okay to have all of the experience that you're having, and to love myself through those experiences, to love myself in the midst of those experiences, take the judgment off from myself. This judgment and expectation to be perfect needs to go in order for me to really build this deep, compassionate, loving relationship with myself. And I'm so grateful for my mentor that came into my life that day, that finally put out that mirror and allowed me to pick up that mirror for myself and say, Karishma, what's really happening inside of you? And what's amazing is when we start being honest with ourselves, we can be honest with the other and say, hey, I really need to have this conversation. I really feel this. I really feel that. In our businesses, to be able to advocate for ourselves, to say, you know what, this isn't serving me. To advocate for ourselves, to say, instead of fear driving every business meeting, what if I could be intentional with my time? What if I could really value my time? Because when I really value myself on a deep level, I value my time, I value my energy, I value my resources. And guess what? Because our inner universe is reflecting in our outer universe, the business has no choice but to take off when we're really honest with ourselves and we really start valuing ourselves. And those parts of us are so hard to see because we've been so deeply conditioned that we must be perfect, that we need to hold all our shit together. We need to push through things, push through marriage, persevere. We fail in our marriage, we fail as human beings, but all of that is just a load of crap. The real truth is saying, you know what? Like, I'm going to be honest with myself and love myself, even though I feel like this. And when you're feeling whatever you're feeling, and you're angry and you're rageful and you're insecure and you're powerless, and it feels like it's really about them, to really take the time and space to be with and say, oh my God, what's really happening within me? And what am I really afraid of? And the more I kind of allow myself to go deeper in these experiences, it turns out it has nothing to do with my partner. It has everything to do with me. It's really a deserving issue. We get what we deserve. So if we believe that we're not really capable of deserving true abundance, guess what we're not going to have? We're not going to have true abundance. If we don't believe that we're really deserving of true love, intimacy, and connection, guess what we're going to have? We're going to be settling in our relationships. We're going to be settling in our businesses. We're going to be settling in our health. And isn't it time now to really value ourselves, to stop settling for less than? Because guess what? You only have the gift of one life. Isn't it worth making that life that you get to live the most incredibly joyful version of the life that you could possibly have? And that's what this whole journey is about. Thanks for listening.